Hello, my name is Kern, and welcome to Stupid Tech, a Link to the Past randomizer series on techniques that you might employ that are stupid, either because they are incredibly obscure, or they're unlikely to pay off, or difficult to perform. In this case, we are going over bunny glitches, but thanks to V30, namely inverted mode, but also just generally some recent developments in new bunny glitches, some of these glitches are downright useful and maybe not quite stupid anymore. But I'm still going to call this series Stupid Tech because many of them are still incredibly stupid, and not to mention obscure. So in this video, I want to give you just a crash course on bunny glitches. I want to give you an update on some new tech that's been discovered. I want to tell you how you can use these glitches together and how to apply them in your runs. And I think maybe most interestingly, what this all means for inverted mode. But before we dive in with all of these glitches over here, and how you perform them, maybe we should just start by understanding what this state is, the glitchless bunny state, and what it means and what you can and can't do. So to start, obviously I can hop down ledges, I can walk around. There are many things that I can do, but this state is really defined by what you can't do. And the glitches that are all over here are all about how you can sequence break that and do things anyway that you maybe aren't normally supposed to do. So let's talk about what you can't do. You can't slash. There's no slashing of swords or charging of swords or anything. Dashing doesn't work as a bunny, so good luck bonking into things, or moving around quickly for that matter. You also can't open chests, and this is a major limitation of the bunny state. Because of this limitation, you really need to rely on certain glitches to check certain item locations. So yeah, you can't open chests as a regular bunny, kind of a bummer. You can't swim as a bunny, and you can see here I've kind of went into the water and now I'm doing this really weird glitched wade thing. This is because I currently have the flippers. If I go into the practice hack menu and I turn the flippers off, you can see that it kind of just ejects me kind of more normally from the water there. So just know that you can't use the flippers, although there are some ways around this as well. You can't use Y items, so good luck trying to use the flute, which wouldn't work anyway, or the hammer. But there actually are some exceptions to this, so it's not all Y items, it's just most of them. So the exceptions are bottles. Anything that's in a bottle, whether it's a bee, a fairy, a potion, whatever, is usable as a bunny. So I could release this fairy and catch it if I wanted to. I could release a bee to kill some enemies, which in inverted mode is actually potentially very useful because of the bunny navigation that mode might require. Other exceptions, obviously, I can use the mirror. That's a Y item. That will work just fine. And interestingly, in inverted mode is the only real application for this, but you can use the book as a bunny. So in inverted mode, that could mean you can open up Desert Palace, although without the use of other glitches, that doesn't get you anywhere. But you could also do things like check the Bombos tablet, which I'm pretty sure is a logical possibility. Like, it might be logically required for you to check the Bombos tablet as a bunny. The Moon Pearl could be there, depending on what items you have. But this brings up other questions about inverted mode. Like, what could it make you do? What is logically possible in inverted mode? So let's talk about the other things that you can do in this normal glitchless bunny state. And that's talk to NPCs. So while your A button doesn't work if you're trying to dash, or if you're trying to open chests, it does work when you're talking to NPCs who might give you an item. So for instance, in inverted mode, that could be the bottle merchant, that could be the green pendant on Sahashala. If you're in the dark world, if you could somehow get to Stump Kid in a normal game mode, then that would also be the kind of NPC you could talk to who gives you an item. You can also pull the pedestal in inverted mode, strangely, as the bunny, and that is a potential logical possibility. And in fact, I think that it's much more probable that you would find a Moon Pearl on the pedestal in inverted than you ever would in a normal game mode, simply because there are so many more pendant dungeons that you can do in inverted without the Moon Pearl. Potential pendant dungeons. And also, another thing you can do as the bunny is you can pick up freestanding items. So if there is an item just sitting there, like, for example, what's one that you can actually get? I'm trying to think of one that you can actually... There are so many freestanding items that you can't get. Like, for instance, this desert ledge item, if I were in the light world. I could see it as a bunny in inverted mode, but I couldn't actually get to it without the use of glitches. But I mean, that's a good example. With glitches, I can get over to that item, and then I'm able to pick it up even if I'm in the normal glitchless bunny mode. So that's a general idea of what you can and can't do in the bunny state. So now let's get into how we sequence break and how we overcome these obstacles, starting with the most common, probably the easiest, maybe even the most useful of all of these glitches, and that is Super Bunny. So here we are in Kakariko Village. This is a wonderful place to show you about the Super Bunny glitches, because there are so many ways to activate the Super Bunny in the village. Of course, I'm playing in inverted mode right now. That's why I'm a bunny. There actually is a way that you can be a bunny in a normal game mode while in the light world, but because it doesn't have any utility, I'm not going to really dwell on that or explain what that is all about, because I'm trying to focus on how these minor glitches apply to tournaments and races and things like that. So probably the easiest way that you can activate Super Bunny is to talk to an NPC who gives you an item. So you can see that my animation is a little bit different now, like I'm kind of moving a lot quicker, and that's a good sign that you have activated Super Bunny correctly. What can I do in this state, you may ask? Well, I can now slash my sword, even though I can't see it. Be warned that when you do a sword charge, it doesn't actually have a hitbox, I think either when you're charging it or when you release it. So don't expect to be able to damage enemies with that. This also means that although it is possible to get to Ganon in a Super Bunny state, you can't actually defeat him because you also do not have the use of Y items as a Super Bunny. Of course, you can use bottles and books and mirrors as normal as Super Bunny, but all that it really gives you is the ability to slash your sword, and, most importantly, the ability to open up some chests. So let's take a look at how that might apply in inverted mode by looking at another way to activate it. And just to clear my bunny state, I will show you how you can lose it. One of the ways you could lose your bunny state is by mirroring. So now the game does its normal check when I re-enter the light world to see whether or not I have the Moon Pearl, and it's reset my state. However, my state would also be reset if I had entered a building and then exited it again. So I believe the Super Bunny state will last while I'm inside the building, but as soon as I exit back to the Overworld, then it's goodbye to the Super Bunny state. Another way, a very easy way to activate the Super Bunny is to fall down a pit that takes you to another room. So this is most infamously known for the aptly named Super Bunny Cave, which is on East Darkworld Death Mountain. In normal game modes, that is the cave that has two items near the Hookshot Cave, kind of in the Turtle Rock area. If you fall down a pit in there, then you can be transformed into Super Bunny, and that is a very easy way to check those two chests if you have the Titan's Mitts but no Moon Pearl. In inverted mode, it also means you can do things like this. You can fall down the Kakariko Well with this fun little glitched animation that doesn't actually change, and you can see by my animation now I am in Super Bunny, which means I can check these chests just fine and reap their rewards, but I cannot bomb open this door, because even if I had bombs, because you cannot use most Y items. So that's not going to get me in there. Unfortunately, in Kakariko, there are quite a few bombable doors that are inside buildings like this. There's this one, there's the one over in Blind's Hut, and of course there's the Chicken Hut as well. Another way that you can activate Super Bunny is by picking up a freestanding item. This is just as easy as talking to an NPC, maybe even easier because you don't have to press the A button if that is a difficult chore for you. You just walk over to it, pick it up, and now you can do all the things like slash. However, I couldn't have actually picked up this item in a normal bunny state because I would have had to lift either these bushes or these ones over here. So just know that this item is not actually logically available, and I had to use a glitch to set this up. But picking up a freestanding item will also put you in Super Bunny state. Another more difficult way that you could activate Super Bunny is by mirroring on the same frame that you enter a building. So the easiest way to set this up normally is to enter the cave or building the normal way and then exit, and you will be on or very close to the topmost pixel. Then you just have to press up and Y at the same time and have good timing. I can tell already by my animation that I'm in Super Bunny, but if I was unsure, I could just like start little dash or slash my sword, and that would tell me that I'm in Super Bunny. Interestingly, in this cave and other caves like it, you can actually use the mirror as a bunny, which means that you can block cancel just fine. So that's not really required to get anywhere in this particular cave, but it's good to know. Of course, I still don't have the use of my bombs, so I'm tough out of luck there. However, what if I didn't have the use of my mirror? Well, there actually is still a way that I can activate Super Bunny while entering into an underworld area like a house or a cave, and that is to be boosted into a doorway. So you could be boosted by taking damage from an enemy attacking you, or by something like a thief, which just runs into you and boosts you through the doorway. In this case, I am in Kakariko before having defeated Aghanim, which is logically not possible in Inverted, but with the use of these minor glitches that I'm about to show you, it's totally possible. If you find yourself in this situation, one thing you could do in Kakariko is you could talk to this woman or the other woman on the west side of town in order to summon a guard, who will then chase you down, and actually kind of better than other guards because he sticks with you for longer. You want to make sure you don't accidentally enter the doorway yourself. You want to be boosted in. And now I am also in Super Bunny. This particular house is not a very useful one to be Super Bunny in, because there's nothing I really need to pick up here, you know, unless I really wanted those hearts. Also, I can get Super Bunny by talking to the Sick Kid, and this is another one of those gotchas in Inverted mode. Sick Kid can be logically required for progression before you have the Moon Pearl, meaning the Moon Pearl could be on the Sick Kid, because you are able to talk to Sick Kid and get their item without the use of any minor glitches. So those are all the ways that you might activate Super Bunny, but let's talk a little bit more about some of its limitations and how it gets deactivated. So one way that it might get deactivated is by bonking into something. So I'm just going to show that to you here. I'm in Super Bunny now, and if I dash, I can dash just fine and cancel it, but if I happen to bonk into something, I can no longer slash my sword, I can no longer dash, I can't open chests, I can't pick up pots, so that's one thing that you have to be careful of. Another limitation is if I were to be damaged by an enemy while in Super Bunny, then Super Bunny would be disabled. I'm not currently in Super Bunny, but yeah, if I were to try to summon this guard and let's say I failed to have him boost me into a doorway and I took damage and I wanted to give up on it and do something else with my Super Bunny state, would be tough out of luck because I've taken damage now. Back at Misery Mire, this is another area that you might actually want to use Super Bunny without the use of these other glitches. And may actually come up as a useful thing in one of your races. So with just the use of the Titan's Mitts and the Flippers, you have complete access to this area. So why not take advantage of that and check whatever locations you can? And that was that was quite the water wade thing that just happened there. So just like the other setups here, you just need to mirror on the same frame that you enter this area. And there's nothing really special to that, so I'm not going to show that particular setup. But what I will show you is how you can use this Murderdactyl here to your advantage. So if you happen to not have the mirror, then no worries, you are still totally able to do it if you can just manipulate this Murderdactyl a little bit. And you don't necessarily have to get hit there, I just happen to be hit. That's the only hit you have to soak, so that should be possible in most cases when you reach your normal game modes. So I'm now in Super Bunny, I can block cancel away, I can open these chests, and sequence break to whatever's inside the mire shed. And considering that this is an incredibly quick check to get inside the mire shed, and considering that it may have something that's nice, this is a sequence break that is definitely worth considering. The next glitch, Dungeon Bunny Revival, is super simple to execute. The hard part is getting to where you need to be in order to execute the glitch. So here we are at Desert Palace and happen to be in Super Bunny state because apparently using the book to open up Desert Palace puts you in Super Bunny, which I did not know until just now, so I'm learning something too along with you. I mentioned that it is possible to get the Desert Ledge item with the use of some of these other glitches, and this is one of the ways that you might do that in inverted mode. So I enter the dungeon, and I die. My death animation is Link, which is kind of interesting, and when I hit save and continue, I am now Link. And I have all the capabilities of Link. I can dash, I can even bonk, and I'm not going to convert back into a bunny state of any kind. So I have complete freedom here to open chests, to pick up that pot, which is normally what blocks your way to the desert ledge, I believe. and to complete this dungeon, in fact. Interestingly, though, it is a little bit more difficult to get to the back section of this dungeon. So because of the way that Desert Palace is locked and inverted, I just want to show this off real quick while I'm here, because I think this is really interesting and good to know. You cannot open up, you will turn back into a bunny when you exit back to the overworld, which is a consistent theme. If you're a super bunny in the cave, or if you're a Link in the underworld or inside of a dungeon and you exit again, the game's going to do its normal Moon Pearl check and put you back in the state that you're supposed to be. So just know that even if you're in the overworld, you can go inside of a cave just fine, but as soon as you exit back into the overworld from the underworld, you will be in a normal bunny state. So I can't pick up these stones, and that's a real issue in inverted mode. And there's no way that I can mirror inside there, because we mirror from the light world to the dark world in inverted mode. So there's actually no other glitch that I'm aware of that allows you to get inside there, but to pick up the Desert Ledge item, which puts you into Super Bunny and will then allow you to pick up the rock. So just know that this is the only way that you can get inside Desert without the Moon Pearl. So if you're concerned about that and trying to do a Moon Pearl-less run, make sure you don't pick up that Desert Ledge item until you're ready to go up and defeat Land Mollis. So then you can enter this dungeon just fine, and then just simply kill yourself on this Beamos to go back into a Dungeon Bunny revival state. Now this glitch is useful in pretty much all dungeons. Let's take a look at a few of them and how you might perform this glitch. So Tower of Hera is probably the most interesting dungeon in Inverted to apply the Dungeon Bunny Revival to, simply because, for one reason, it is incredibly difficult to get over here. It is probably this west side Death Mountain, northwest side Death Mountain area is probably the most difficult place to get to without the Moon Pearl, and requires the application of a bunch of different glitches in order to get here. Some of them very difficult to perform. So, but if you happen to be here, you might find yourself in the situation of, okay, how do I Dungeon Bunny Revive inside of Tower of Hera? Because look at this, there are no enemies here, and I can't flip the crystal switch right now. So the easiest way, perhaps, is to get into Super Bunny. And so if I mirrored on the same frame that I entered, then I would have the use of my sword, and I could slash just fine. And actually, I happen to have sword beams right now because I have full health. But that's not required. You just need to have the use of a sword so that you can slash. But let's say you didn't have the mirror. Well, we're robbed of our normal way of being damaged by an enemy here, because the only enemy that could potentially damage us is this little dead rock, and it can't walk up these stairs. So, interestingly, we have this spectral rock item right here, which would put us into Super Bunny. And that will last long enough that we can enter a dungeon or an underworld location. So now I could walk inside and flip the crystal switch just fine as well. But the other thing that I could also do is I could pull the ether tablet, which we just found also puts you into Super Bunny, probably because you're receiving an item. And then, of course, there's Eastern Palace, which you can walk to without the use of any other glitches if you've defeated Aghanim, but you can't pick up this pot. So one solution that you might think is you could get into Super Bunny to lift this pot and then go damage yourself on the Potobos, but that's not really necessary. You can just walk right over to one of these doors and just fall in this pit over and over again to trigger the Dungeon Bunny Revival. But we're not done yet with Light World dungeons in Inverted mode, oh no. Because if you happen to get to Hyrule Castle as a bunny, which is totally possible just by defeating Aghanim, then this also is a dungeon. The key thing about Dungeon Bunny Revival is that it spits you back at the beginning of the cave or the underworld section that you are. And in this sense, the escape dungeon counts as a dungeon. Also, it's good to keep in mind that the back end of escape counts as just as much of the dungeon as the front. So if you were to fall down from the graveyard area and then check the few chests there, then know that if you needed to, you could perform Dungeon Bunny Revival there as well. So if you find yourself in Ganon's Tower as a bunny, and of course this trick applies to both inverted and to non-inverted game modes, although it is much more difficult to get to Ganon's Tower in non-inverted game mode, it is actually possible, just maybe a lot more stupid of a tech than in inverted mode. But anyway, the solution to killing yourself here is pretty simple. You could go down either set of stairwells, really. There are enemies on either side, but I just enjoy using the spikes here, and if you line yourself up right, you can find a little sweet spot here that kind of nudges you into a block and makes it a bit easier. Or just maybe ping-pong yourself back and forth to perform the Dungeon Bunny Revival. Turtle Rock, it is not possible to Dungeon Bunny Revive in unless you do a Super Bunny to pick up these pots. But the main barrier is that there is currently no known way, using minor glitches only, to enter inside of Turtle Rock without the Moon Pearl. So I wouldn't waste your time thinking about Dungeon Bunny Reviving in Turtle Rock unless you're playing Entrance Randomizer. Another strange exception is Skull Woods. So it's not that this dungeon is in 3 parts, but rather that there's another way to trigger the Dungeon Bunny Revival trick, and that is to not even take a revival at all, to take no death whatsoever. One of the ways that you can trigger it is by being picked up by a Wall Master. And there we go, now I'm in the Link state. It's only really useful to do this glitch in Skullwoods. There are Wall Masters in other dungeons, Ganon's Tower namely, but you can't really get to them unless you're Link anyway, or can use Y items. So it's not really useful in any other dungeon but this one, but just good to know that this is possible, like if you wanted to retain a fairy, or in case it took too long to perform the Bunny Revival, then this one might be good to know. The final exception I want to show you is Swamp Palace. So because you cannot swim as a bunny, there's just no way to get to enemies while you're in a bunny state. So this makes it very difficult to perform a Dungeon Bunny Revival, but it is actually possible, and I will be getting to how you might accomplish that when I go over the 0 HP glitch, which is technically not a bunny glitch, but is the only use of the minor glitch version of the 0 HP glitch. Is to revive inside of Swamp Palace when you don't have the Moon Pearl. So I'll be going over that later. This next glitch is very simple, but does require another glitch to use, and that is Super Bunny. So if you pull a tree or a statue or anything that like drops rupees or that kind of thing that does the tree pull, then it'll transform you into Link if you are in the Super Bunny state. So you can't do it outside of the Super Bunny state, because how are you going to pull the tree? But there we go. And you don't even have to finish the tree pull. This glitch is most useful in inverted mode, which is why I'm showing it off here, because it is simply not really possible to do in non-inverted mode, unless you're playing something like Entrance Randomizer, Crossworlds, or you are doing major glitches. So if you do a YBA, doing a fake flute from the Dark World, then when you get out of that fake flute and you're dropped off by the bird, you will also be in Super Bunny, which is a way to trigger Super Bunny I didn't talk about because it is not a minor glitch application of it. But if you happened to be in that state, then you could also do a tree pull from the Dark World as well. Just know that this tree pulling thing, not really all that useful in non-inverted mode. This next glitch is by far my most favoritely named glitch, and that is Wriggling. So it has to do with that glitch I showed off earlier, where you kind of do that weird glitchy wade into the water thing. If you have the flippers, then you can do a glitch called Wriggling, which just involves rhythmically tapping. There we go. Rhythmically tapping a directional button, and you can see that you wade farther and farther out. And I can stop here, and if I were to hop, I would be returned to the deep water where I am. So this glitch could get you places, but you can see I'm not going very fast. So in inverted mode, it could be useful to get to certain locations you otherwise couldn't get to, but just know that you can only really do it in locations that have a shallow to deep water barrier boundary. Otherwise, most of the utility of Wriggling is in setting up other glitches. So here's Overworld Bunny Revival. The idea is simple. If I am fairy revived over deep water, so it has to be this dark blue and not this light blue stuff, then I will be revived as Link. I am in a state here that we like to call Surfing Bunny. There's nothing really special about Surfing Bunny. If you happen to be over deep water, when you mirror back from a location, then you will be in the Surfing Bunny state. So that's how you get into that state. It's pretty much like fake flippers in all other ways, except for you have this really funny kind of animation here. But the idea is if I take some damage now, and I just dodge that damage expertly, let me just run into here, then I'll die, and I have a fairy, so I'll be fairy revived. and I will now be Link and have all the capabilities of Link. So I've showed you this in inverted mode because this is a particularly useful area to do this glitch. And I'll just show you how to execute that right now. So this is the Venus Island, where in V30 you can buy these bomb and arrow upgrades. But you can get here very easily by lifting up a black rock, and all you need to get to this island is the flippers, and then you need the Titan's mitts in order to lift up the rock, and you're here. So you get here, and hey, you know, you want access to the rest of the light world now, right? Well, if you have the flippers and the mirror, this is the easiest setup, although those two items are not required, but I'll show you the easy setup first. First, you want to make sure that you're down to half a heart. So you have these convenient enemies here to damage you, or if you had a bunch of hearts and red mail, you might want to damage yourself on a Hinox or something on the way over here. So the easy setup is simply just fall off the edge of the diving board so you're on the very bottom pixel that you can be. Then you mirror, and then you just mirror back but at a slightly lower position. And that will mirror you back over the deep water, and you'll now be in a surfing bunny state, and you can bunny revival freely. But if you didn't have, let's say you didn't have the flippers or the mirror, it is actually possible to do this here, but it relies on enemy RNG. I have to try to intercept that fireball as it's coming at me. So although this is technically possible, and for that reason I've included it in this, as of the making of this video, there is no consistent setup. I have got it before, and I almost got it there, but I would not call this technique race ready. The RNG can be, well, really random, and there's just no fast way to do it. But there are other setups, Overworld Bunny Revival setups, that do involve enemy RNG, which are a bit more consistent. So, namely, in normal game modes. So here I am on the northeast side of Dark Lake Hylia. I could get here easily, in logic, actually, I could get to this location simply by defeating Aghanim. And if I happen to have a bottle, then I can do a hell of a lot more too. So this works as the other bunny revivals. Now, the easy setup is I could use that diving board just as I did on Venus Island, if I had the flippers and the mirror. But let's say I didn't. I could try to time my jump in along with this little Zoraling guy so that he kills me right as I hop on top of his fireball. However, probably the easiest setup over here and most consistent is I just screen transition until he's at the bottom of the cliff, and then I dive on top of his head, which seems to happen fairly frequently. Very frequently, pun not intended. So if you're having issues with where he's spawning at, I wouldn't just sit there and hang out and wait for him to come back. I would just screen transition back and forth a few times. An interesting thing about this glitch is that it acts just like a fairy revival too. So if you happen to have performed it, as I did right here, without the use of the flippers, then you would be revived in fake flippers, and you would have all the abilities of that. But you also have the limitations. So if I was revived without the use of flippers using an Overworld Bunny Revival, then I could also have some soft lock potential if I were to be damaged by an enemy while I'm in that state. So just be careful about that a little bit. Although I think in this particular setup, it would just eject me back up onto the land here. But just be careful if you screen transition. So now I am Link, and I have all the capabilities of Link, including now I can go up to Kiki and return Kiki, which you can't do in the bunny state or the super bunny state. This is pretty much the only real utility I see of an Overworld Bunny Revival in a normal game mode, is to just add a little bit of potential and value onto an early Aghanim play. If you happen to have gambled on Aghanim early without the Moon Pearl, but you have a bottle, then knowing this glitch would allow you to get inside of Pod and maybe other places in the overworld if you had other items. However, there is one more kind of maybe useful utility for Overworld Bunny Revival, and that's to get inside Mire. So normally, of course, you can't use Y items like the medallion to get inside Mire, it just won't work. But I could Overworld Bunny Revival here to turn into Link and then use the medallion. So if I wanted to do that and sequence break this location, like let's say I had, you know, the lamp and the Cane of Samaria, and this was a crystal, and I'm like, might as well do this while I'm here, and maybe I can sequence break something and get something early, like the boots or something fun. Then I might decide to do that. The easiest way is to do the surfing bunny, or rather the wriggle into surfing bunny glitch. I picked kind of a weird spot to do this, but I think it'll work. Alright, yeah, now I'm in Surfing Bunny, so all I have to do is to collide with this guy, and the Overworld Bunny Revival will trigger. I'm just going to fast forward this animation here. We've seen it before. And now I'm Link, and I can open up Misery Mire and do whatever I want inside there. But let's say, again, I didn't have the mirror and the flippers. Is there another setup? And the answer is yes, indeed there is. And it is using this Murderdactyl. So let's just get his attention. And this is a really hard technique. Obviously, I just failed it. But it is doable. And I don't think that's going to be it. I think I'm still in the shallow water there, but let's find out. Oh, hey, that was apparently deep enough. Normally, I'm not quite that lucky, and I wasn't really set up in time. Normally, you kind of want it to be so that he's swooping under you, and then you kind of jump off into the water, and then collide with him as you're in midair. Is the normal way you might trigger that, but I would just give that some practice. I get it like maybe half the time, maybe even more than that when I try for it. So it's really not as difficult as I think some people make it out to be, and that RNG is a lot nicer than some of the other RNG that you use for Overworld Bunny Revival. If you do this sequence break, I highly recommend that you first open up Misery Mire, and then you walk on over to the Mire Shed while you're still Link. This will save you from having to do a Super Bunny inside the Mire Shed in order to get those items. And if you didn't have the mirror in order to set up this Overworld Bunny Revival glitch, and you just did it on the Murderdactyl as I showed you there, then it might save you some trouble in setting up a Super Bunny inside here as well. So as I mentioned before, there is actually a way to perform a dungeon bunny revival inside Swamp Palace, and that's with the use of another glitch. You might notice that my hearts up there look completely empty. That's because I've armed this 0 HP glitch, given myself 0 HP without dying. I'll show you that setup in just a bit, but one of the capabilities of 0 HP is when you fall in water and are ejected from it, whether or not you're a bunny or you're Link or whatever, if you're ejected because you don't have the flippers, you're not supposed to be swimming because you don't have the Moon Pearl, then the game does something really weird and it checks how much health you have. And if you have 0 health, then it kills you. So if you can get 0 HP and get to the Swamp Palace, which is a whole ordeal in itself, then you can simply jump in the water here and kill yourself like that. It'll trigger a death, and bada bing, bada boom, you've just done a dungeon bunny revival. And now, Swamp Palace is your oyster, and you can full clear it. How you set up this 0 HP glitch, though, is far from as easy as how you use it. So this is really in the realm of stupid tech, because what has to happen is you have to take your final hit, meaning you basically have to die, on the same frame that you are falling in a pit. So that's very difficult to do and to set up. I have a setup here I'm about to show you. Just one note is that you shouldn't do this from inside of a dungeon because it's considered a major glitch, unless you're playing a major glitch category, because of some weirdness that it enables. However, if we do it from an overworld pit, which we are about to do, then we're fine to use it in races and tournaments and stuff like that, which are minor glitches allowed. So my setup involves going up against this rock here, and I just want to say something about this setup too. This setup, I'm told there's an easier way to do this, but this is the way I learned it, so I'm going to show it to you this way. I line up on this rock, line up on this bush, that sets my X and Y coordinate, then I slash it and dash turn, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dash and lay the bomb down on the same frame, and then I'm going to start to pause buffer. And I'm just looking for the right visual cue here. I think that's it. We're going to find out. Nope, too early. There we go. That's it. So you can see now my hearts are displaying as 0 hearts. So this is what it's going to allow me to revive in Swamp Palace, but if this is all you've done is you've set up the glitch, then you've already failed if you haven't done anything else, because if you want to do this, if you want to use this glitch to have Moon Pearl as Swamp Palace capabilities, then you'll need to have set up a warp point down there in the Swamp Palace area. It needs to be on that screen. because the only way to get there using minor glitches in a normal game mode is by doing an Overworld bunny revival, which then means you're going to be healed and you can't do anything else. So you have to make sure you set up your warp point first. But now that we have 0 HP, we can simply mirror over to Swamp Palace, pull the dam switch as normal, do all of our things, and then just hop in as a bunny, and it'll kill us, as you saw before. This is a fairly new glitch. I've been calling it the Super Bunny Beam. Other people might have different names for it, I'm not really sure. I haven't really heard many people talk about this, other than describing the glitch in full. But the idea is, if you have Super Bunny inside of a dungeon... Let's just make sure that worked here. Nope, did not work. Let's try it with a mirror. Then you are... And then if you get bunny beamed... Say I pick up this pot, which I know has a bunny beam under it. Then I'll be back to normal bunny. I can't dash, I can't slash, but when it unbunny beams me, I will be Link again. So this is kind of a little shortcut that you might use, like if you're in Thieves Town and you don't want to do a dungeon bunny revival, maybe you have a lot of health or something, maybe there's no good enemies nearby, then that's kind of a fun glitch that you can do. Now for what is probably my favorite bunny glitch, and is definitely the stupidest glitch of all, not only because of difficulty, but also complication and just rare utility. It's actually much more useful now in inverted mode, but in any case, why don't I show you the glitch before I talk too much about it. This glitch is a little similar to the Super Bunny Beam glitch in that it involves getting bunny beamed, but Super Bunny is not required for this glitch. In fact, I think it might even mess it up. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, but in any case, how you arm this glitch is interesting. You get bunny beamed, and then you exit the dungeon before the effect would normally wear off. So you don't have to have the mirror in order to do this, particularly in Thieves Town. There's that other pot I showed you that you could go pick up, or there's other bunny beams elsewhere that you can then get back to the door in time without having to mirror away. But mirroring away is the fastest, and in other dungeons is the most useful way to do it. So now I have this state armed, and it's an interesting state. I just want to show you real quick here. If I were to mirror into the light world, then the state would kind of activate, and I would be poofed into a bunny as if I was just bunny beamed, and the wear down timer would go as normal, and I would go back to Link eventually. Another interesting thing about this glitch is this is actually a way that you can be perma-bunny in the light world. I'm sorry for the weird video things that you're seeing. I'm just fast forwarding the game to get to the good stuff. Because I got hit while I was in the bunny state and I didn't have the moon pearl, I am now a perma-bunny inside the light world. And I could deactivate that in a few different ways. It's not like the end of the world. I can just mirror back if I want to. I think I can even enter a house and exit it again, and I would be Link as well. But that's kind of interesting. But anyway, so we don't want to enter the light world because that would activate the glitch prematurely. But we also can't take damage because that would make the glitch state go away. I didn't mention this before about Super Bunny, but in Super Bunny, if you fall off a ledge, then the Super Bunny state deactivates. That's not true for some reason in this Unbunny Beam glitch state. So, okay, enough about how you arm it. We haven't even seen what it does yet. So how you activate it is you do a Super Bunny. So let's just do a Super Bunny by mirror entering this cave here. And you can see I poofed into a bunny, and then I will, when it wears off, become Link. Now this is true for any cave. It doesn't have to be a dungeon. So I could use this glitch, for example, to check items in here. It can't be damaged inside, and I activated it prematurely. If I get damaged, then the state wears off, right? So I have to have a little bit more accuracy and timing here. I didn't get the Super Bunny state there, so I couldn't do the Unbunny Beam glitch just now. But you might be asking, like, what's the utility of this, right? Like, oh, so what? I have done the Unbunny Beam glitch. I could have opened these chests using a normal Super Bunny, which is required to activate this glitch. Well, in a standard game, it's not all that useful, but I will show you one edge case in a standard game. It's much more useful in inverted, but here's one edge case. So let's say I was able to open up Ganon's tower as a bunny, which is totally possible. I could just walk to this dungeon and then the crystals would float up as normal and I would be able to enter the dungeon. Well, Ganon's tower and Super Bunny Cave are just about the only things that you can do on Dark Death Mountain without the Moon Pearl. However, there's one more item that you can get, and that is Spike Cave. So if I had used all of these other glitches over at the side to get here, defeat those crystal dungeons and open up Ganon's Tower, then I can also check Spike Cave. So to set that up, first, I'm going to do a Dungeon Bunny Revival. And now that I'm Link, I can go a little bit deeper in the dungeon. But we only have to go one room further. So here's the Bunny Beam in question. This particular setup does require the mirror, because there's just no way you can get the entrance in time unless you mirror out. So now I've armed the glitch, and we're going to activate it in Spike Cave by mirror entering the cave. So normally, if I were to enter this with Super Bunny, sure, I could be inside here, I could open the chest if I could get to it, but there's these hammer pegs right here that, you know, you can't use Y items as a Super Bunny. So hopefully I bonk here, and it doesn't activate prematurely. Okay, good. Let's try it again. So I poofed, and I am Invisible Link. Now this is one of the interesting ways that this glitch sometimes manifests. I showed it to you before in Thieves Town, and because it was a dungeon, it actually made me first turn into the bunny and then turn into Link. But when you activate it inside of a cave, the game freaks out a little bit. And I now have all the capabilities of Link. I can slash my sword, I can hammer down these pegs, but I'm invisible, and for one screen and one screen only, I'm also invincible. So an interesting thing about this sequence break of the Spike Cave without the Moon Pearl is that it's actually better than most other sequence breaks because I don't even get damaged on these spikes. I do have to be a little careful because it's hard to see me without a sprite or without a shadow. And now I'm at the item just fine. One thing to know, however, is that for some reason when you're on spikes, if you were to dash, then you would suddenly start taking damage. So you want to be a little careful about that. But let's get to how this glitch is useful in inverted mode, because to be honest, that's a lot more cool, not to mention a lot more useful. So let's say I'm in Kakariko again as the bunny, which again, I have logical access to this location if I've defeated Aghanim. One thing I could do is I could mirror here and activate this glitch from Thieves Town. However, because this is inverted, it's going to prematurely activate when I exit the dungeon. So I exit, and now the glitch will activate prematurely, and I will be in the invisible and vulnerable state, weirdly. Which is not really what we want, right? We want to be able to do more stuff. So I'm actually just going to bonk here to disable the invulnerable part so that I can mirror back. So what we need to do is, this is a really weird thing that would only come up in inverted mode. We need to mirror in a location that is right in front of the door, such that when we exit the dungeon, we are going to be instantly mirrored away. So apparently I've already forgot my pixel reference I came up with for this. Alright, so that looks good to me. I'm going to leave that mirror spot there in front of the doorway. Let's go get bunny beamed. So you have to do this in this way where you set up a mirror portal that you're going to mirror bonk against, because unfortunately all the bunny beams are inside of Dark World dungeons. So in inverted mode, this is pretty much how you have to do this glitch. So get bunny beamed, exit the dungeon quickly. I could have also dragged that to the entrance with me if I didn't have the mirror, but I have to have the mirror anyway to mirror bonk here. So now the glitch isn't activated prematurely. And if I were to do something like buy the item from the bottle merchant, which I can't currently do, or I were to fall down this pit, which activates Super Bunny, then I would be turned into invisible and vulnerable Link, and I can open this chest. And also I could throw bombs if I had bombs, which I don't right now. So this is an interesting way to get access to these three bomb-locked locations in Kakariko. This is the main utility I see of this glitch, is it's just an easy way to shortcut into a Link state. You could do an Overworld Bunny Revival in inverted also to be Link here, But that setup is a bit more complicated, and you can see this invisible state is a little lingering here. But if I had the money for the bottle merchant, then I could have also talked to them and turned into Link, and now I'm Link in the Overworld, which is particularly valuable when you're doing bunny traversal without the Moon Pearl in inverted mode. However, there is one more absolutely stupid application of this Bunny Beam glitch that I really am very excited to show you. So here I am on East Side Death Mountain. Now, in inverted mode, this is a place that is logically accessible without the Moon Pearl, as long as I have Death Mountain access, and as long as I have the Titan's Mitts to open up the rock that's down there. So I've just climbed up the mountain and then hopped down to this location. If I mirror from here, I will be in the second Turtle Rock entrance, and I'm just going to set this up right away. I'm going to mirror in a spot that will allow me to mirror bonk right back into the light world, and enter this cave. Just going to dodge these laser beams real quick. I recommend using this entrance if you're going to do this glitch, because this is an easier one to navigate as the bunny, to hop down and get to where you need to go without being damaged. Then I can simply backtrack through this part of the dungeon until I reach the bunny beam. Let's get bunny beamed here. Again, this one does actually require the mirror to perform, much less, you have to mirror bonk. Okay, so now I've mirror bonked before the glitch has gone off, so it didn't prematurely activate. And now I'm in the glitch state, but I have to be careful not to take any damage here, which is one of the hardest aspects of this particular setup. All right, so I'm in this room with the mini Moldorms. Now, it is actually possible to get through this room by just walking. I pause buffer. I've done it before. It takes a long time, and I don't think it's really race efficient, but if you happen to have a bee, and I have a golden bee on me for just this reason, then this is another way to get through the room. If I was unlucky, the golden bee could have made the mini Moldorm run right into me. And then I have just one more obstacle. I have to get through these dead rocks here, which can be really quite trolly. So I am going to employ a little bit of pause buffering here to just show you how you might actually do this with real RNG in a real race. Okay? And then the final part of this glitch, and this is absolutely required. There's no other way to trigger this glitch on Death Mountain. You pick up this freestanding item. So if you want to sequence break over the northwest Death Mountain without the Moon Pearl, then just know you cannot pick up this item any earlier than now. Picking up the item activates Super Bunny, which arms the glitch, and now I am invisible, invulnerable Link. So I can easily just walk over to where these hammer pigs are. And now I have sequence broken over to the northwest Death Mountain. I don't imagine that this particular sequence break will be very useful to people, but what's nice about it is I can get all these items in one go. I can pick up the Spectral Rock item, I can go get the tablet, and then I can just walk right into Hera, and I will still be in my Link state. And in fact, I will continue to be invisible, although not invincible, until I walk up or down some stairs somewhere. So that's all that I possibly can think to say about these bunny glitches. I hope that this was fun for you, and I hope that you use this to do absolutely stupid stuff in tournaments and in casual races. Let me know if you have any questions, feedback, comments. They're all welcome. Leave them here on YouTube or find me on Discord.